Wow, guys, Pam Bondi is making it be known that we elected a president to run this country, not a judge. You guys got to check this video out.
What Republican lawmakers called activist federal judges. District judges across America, as you know, have been hitting the Trump administration. So far, 17 injunctions. Those are all tied to some of the 174 lawsuits filed against the president's agenda. Now, reminder, President Trump has only been in office just over 2 months, exactly 77 days. Here's Attorney General Pam Bondi.
Over 170 lawsuits filed against us. That should be the constitutional crisis right there. 50 injunctions. They're popping up every single day, trying to control his executive power. It's basically a game of whack-a-mole with these district court judges around the country who have a tremendous amount of power. They believe they do, but that's why we're appealing all of these cases, of course, up to the Supreme Court.
So really quick, guys, an injunction is basically, let's say I want to go out and do something. I make a whole entire plan for it. He ran on this. He ran on the border, and you immediately put a seize action, like you stop all the work that I'm doing. That's what they're doing with these illegals, for example. The MS-13 trying to get the flight to turn around. This judge is making it a problem for everything Trump ran on for him to actually pass. So then people start asking themselves, when is Trump going to start doing this? When is Trump going to make the food healthier? These judges don't really care for Americans. All they care about is getting another Democrat in there to fill their pockets and just make sure they have unlimited money. Money that they can't even live a lifetime to spend. They just want the money and the power. Let's keep going, man.
Oh, they believe they have the power, all right. A new headline reads, as judges stymie Trump with nationwide orders, pressure builds on the U.S. Supreme Court. The Senate Judiciary Committee took up this topic in a hearing just last week.
Although our founders saw an important role for the judiciary, they didn't design a system that made judges national policymakers.
Democrats today are angry at the voters for re-electing Donald Trump and electing a Republican Senate and a Republican House, and they engaged in lawfare to stop democracy from operating.
You don't need to be some soothsayer or the oracle at Delphi to understand that there's something amiss here.
All right, let's talk to him ourselves and focus now. The senator you just saw in that last clip, Republican Eric Schmidt of the great state of Missouri, member of the Judiciary Committee. Great to see you. So talk to me, if you can, about reining in these judges and what is realistic that you can get done.
Yeah, I think to step back, what's the real problem here? Really, for the first 200 years of our country, we really didn't see any of this kind of stuff. This is a crisis of the 21st century, and specifically with liberal activist judges. In the first less than 100 days of President Trump's administration here, you've seen more injunctions than the 12 years between Obama's two terms and Joe Biden. So these judges are more than willing to play an outsized role beyond their Article III authority. So there's a few things that are happening. One is some legislation to say one single judge can't do this. Maybe you need a panel. That Senate Judiciary hearing that you heard, that you clipped up from last week, was Senator Grassley's legislation, which would say those district court judges really only have jurisdiction for the parties that are in front of them. I think broadly speaking, though, as these cases make their way up to the Supreme Court, President Trump is going to be successful because he's either operating as commander-in-chief with his Article II powers as the executive, or controlling the programming and personnel of the Article II branch. Unlike Joe Biden, who was trying to steamroll the Constitution by saying OSHA could force 100 million people to get a vaccine well beyond his authority, really what President Trump's trying to do is actually rein in the power of the administrative state. So I think he's going to be successful. One other thing to note here, these cases are also supposed to be randomly assigned. Judge Boasberg, over the weekend, it came out, he's not the emergency judge in D.C. He inserted himself in that role. He was on vacation. The case was filed at 2:30 in the morning. Somehow he ended up with that case. He wasn't the emergency judge on duty. So I think this requires further investigation and legislation.
Really quick, guys, you just heard that. The dude woke up from his sleep to take Trump's case. When is enough enough? I have great hopes and faith in Pam Bondi that she's going to go after these judges. And I think first she's going to hit them where the transactions start, because I feel like we're going to find a lot of information there. And it's already been proven that these judges don't care. They are out to get Trump. It's lawfare. We went through it for 4 years, throwing all the stones they could at Trump right before elections because they knew he was running again. He was going to take the throne. So they threw everything they could at him. How can you be this hateful to your own country? How can you be this hateful? Let's keep going.
Legislation.
So let me get that straight, because I'll quote you on that, because that is news to me and maybe a lot of other people too. If he wasn't the emergency judge who would naturally matriculate into that position on this,
Yep.
he just gets to pick himself and say, well, I'm the favorite. Let me
No,
go do this case against
it's
Trump.
rigged.
He's the chief judge, and he inserted himself. That doesn't happen. The emergency
At all.
judges 100% of the time get those cases. So he could have been tipped off that this was going to be filed, and while on vacation, he took the case. So again, this speaks to, I think, the very aggressive, unusual, and unprecedented measures that these activist judges are taking to insert themselves. Ultimately, they're not going to be right. The Supreme Court's going to slap them down. But the Judicial Conference, Chief Justice Roberts ought to look at this, and we also, the Article 1 branch, I intend to file legislation to make sure this randomness, which is supposed to happen when these cases are assigned, actually happens. We need more transparency, because right now, people don't think it's random at all.
So what I think you are getting at is the politics that potentially are being played, where a judge who may feel a certain way politically may step up against Trump at this point. So it fits right in with a brand new opinion piece titled, "America Has a Robed Politician Problem," arguing that the left, unable to secure their agenda at the ballot box, has turned to national injunctions as a weapon to engineer outcomes they could not achieve democratically. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, this is really the fundamental difference between a conservative justice and a liberal activist judge. The conservative will view the law as it's written, not how they want it to be. But the liberals, for a very long time in this country, they had control of the Supreme Court. They just made up things. They made up rights that didn't exist.
Made up genders, gave them law, all types of crazy stuff. All types of crazy stuff. And that's the thing. That's why people hate us so bad, because we see the law and we're like, okay, we should just be following the law. Let's follow the law. These people make and bend the rules in such a way. What did Trump say? In such a way. They bend the rules so bad to fit their agenda and everything that they try to push, the narrative. Then they try to make you feel like a bad person because something's so used and stuck to being one way, then you got to turn around and believe something else that's totally wrong. It doesn't follow the Bible. It doesn't follow simple logic. What is it? It doesn't follow anything. It's a lack of knowledge or something. I don't know what's going on, man, but these people, they don't care for themselves, and people that don't care for themselves already shouldn't be in a position of power.
Exist to get to a political outcome. Now that you have a more conservative court, they're desperate. They're not in power in Congress anymore. And so I think a lot of these judges are taking it upon themselves to usurp really important power. For example, when President Trump declared a predatory incursion of these criminal violent gangs, he's well within his Article 2 executive power to deport them. He can do that. The judge, by stepping in there, Judge Boasberg, by stepping in the case that we're talking about, he somehow got, said you can't do that. That is like that judge dictating missile strikes or deciding troop movements. Those are national security issues. Those are those are powers of the commander-in-chief that the judge doesn't get to do. So the separation of powers works both ways. You don't get to kind of jump into the Article 2 branch's authority on commander-in-chief powers. So I think you're about to see all these cases make their way to the Supreme Court, and I think President Trump's on very firm ground. But we should address these abuses that are happening now every day.
Right.
Man, I'll tell you guys right now, Trump was elected on what he is doing right now, and these judges are literally trying to strip what he's doing away from him. I don't see how that's right. And if any of these illegals were to take advantage of Judge Boasberg's daughter or any of these other judges, you think they'll still feel the same way because they don't care, because they don't have any dogs in this fight. Let me know what you guys think about this quick video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe if you're new. And as always, let me know what to react to. We're out.